Welcome back. We're gonna watch a thing by Stone Age Man. Why we got it wrong. It's about some magic mushrooms. I think these are the mushrooms that look like the Mario mushrooms.
Growing organism is
Really
considered
into
the world's
shrooms, you know.
oldest intoxicant.
Really, really just just really fuck with shrooms, you know. The shit. Scientifically, of course.
Yeah, right there's the amanita.
Shit,
It
dumb
predates
loud.
alcohol by 10,000 years, yet not many use it anymore. The big question is why not?
Today, Jonas and I are on hunt for amanita muscaria, which is arguably the most famous mushroom in the world. I think everybody should know a lot about it, and if you don't, well, stay tuned, because by the end of this, you will.
All right, let's quickly list off the things that we know about that. I don't even know what it's called. The Amanita muscaria. Um, I know that it was considered poisonous. I don't know like if it's actually poisonous. Um, Poisonous as in not the psychedelic kind, as in like it'll kill you kind. Um, I know that it's was popularized through Toad and like from Mario and through Mario crushing the the ones that he's crushing are like called golden something, but he also crushes like these type of mushrooms and he eats them and gets bigger and shit. Um Honestly, I think that's like the only time I've seen them in pop culture, and I really haven't seen many mushroom art. So that's my very limited knowledge of Amanita muscaria.
Fly agaric. If you're unfamiliar, well, the Smurfs live in one. And it is the
Oh,
famous Mario Brothers mushroom.
damn
It
it,
helps
dude.
Mario grow and get more powerful. And this is more than just a fairy tale.
It is mushroom season in Sweden.
And this is like a short wall into the troll forest. It's like dark and dense.
Now, I saw my first one 20 years.
Uh, that's kind of crazy that it's in Sweden, because that's where like my chair like just fucking fell down. That's where like all those fairy tales arise from, right? And they're always going through the forest and getting lost and like scary shit happen, and it's probably because like people fucking eat these mushrooms and they see like a bunch of shadows in the dark and they just like their imagination just goes crazy and they just see witches, and you have like this fear of being lost in the forest, so since if you're on mushrooms your senses are ultra heightened, so if you're inducing yourself in fear, then you're gonna get heightened fear when you're on these mushrooms. So that's like something I didn't really think about. That's pretty dope.
Years ago in Alaska, and the owner of the hostel I was staying in told me a story about it. It went something like this. It's the powerful psychotropic mushroom of the reindeer herders from Siberia in northern Europe. You see, the reindeer can't get enough, and by feeding it to them, they dance and jump about as if they're flying. The cultures would pick the mushrooms in the fall, dry them in the spruce trees, and then the shaman of the tribe would distribute them as presents over the winter solstice in December. From there, they'd all partake in the mushroom and laugh and be joyful, rest and be merry. And if the snow was heavy, well, you couldn't go through the door, so they'd come in through the roof.
What?
I had never heard any of
What?
this, but I could see how people
Bro, that's fucking Santa Claus. That's crazy. Santa Claus was giving out mushrooms, bro.
could make the connection between this mushroom and the legends of Santa Claus and the flying reindeer. But it didn't stop there. He said the mushroom had multiple compounds in them, and the body would convert the bad chemicals to the good. And here is the weird part you don't hear in holiday stories. Apparently, you can collect the pee of both reindeer and people who had eaten the mushroom to, how do we say this? Recycle the chemicals.
Ew. That's kind of like beer, though, right? Like that's some piss beer right there.
That led me to research it a lot. I actually studied it in grad school when I was in Hawaii as well, doing an ethnobotany program. And it's because it has these unique chemicals within its tissues. And I'll get to all that in a sec. First, let's go find the mushroom. And of course, there's not just amanitas. We're finding all sorts of other mushrooms in this forest.
One of these kind of unwritten rules that you don't tell people where they are, and you don't even ask people where they are because you know they're not going to answer you.
I should note here that maybe the best thing about learning about the fly agaric 20 years ago was that it instilled a deep interest in learning about fungi.
Well, that's a very cool one. This is the inky cap. Drink alcohol, they're poisonous.
Finding edibles,
My dad used to love picking these.
and do mushroom time lapses.
Here we go. Turn on. Every 2 minutes.
That shit does look wild dangerous though. Like it looks kind of spiky and it looks kind of menacing, right? But it's just like the skin tearing. Like it's not like I'm sure it had like a red bulb, and as it grows bigger, like the skin is tearing, showing the white inside, but it still looks mad scary. Like I don't know why you would like decide to just fucking eat that. Like you had to have been starving, right?
Now I want to note that this mushroom is mycorrhizal, which means that it forms a relationship with the roots of the trees around us. Now, not every tree forms mycorrhizal associations with fungi. Spruce does, and they're also very specific sometimes which mushrooms are which. You
shit
got to
is
look around and see
big.
which trees you're in. This beautiful spruce forest is a great place to find these. You can also find them in birch and in pine. So it's kind of cool because the mushroom is helping the plant get nutrients, and in exchange, the tree, through its roots, is giving sugars to this beautiful mushroom. Of course, most of the mushroom is underground. It's a mycelial mat. And then these little things are just the fruiting body. These are like the fruits. You don't see them all the time, but the mushroom mass is all underground all the time.
Dude, look at all those fucking mushrooms, bro. There has to be like some bear or, you know, like they said, the deer just munching on these every day. Wildin'.
Even though this mushroom is
Lucky.
highly psychotropic and actually amazingly safe if prepared right, the real danger is mistaking it for something else. Fortunately, this is not a hard mushroom to identify.
Okay, let's talk identification. This is an amanita. Other amanitas include some very deadly and toxic varieties like the destroying angel and the death cap. In other words, you need to know at the very basics how to identify an amanita. So if you look at this one, you can see it has this ring around. It's like a little skirt around the stalk, or stipe as it's called. That is where the cap used to be connected. And then other amanitas will also have a bulbous base. So they have a vulva around the bottom. Now, and that's why when you identify them, sometimes
Nice.
you'll want to dig it down a little bit deeper and cut it out because you don't want to mistake it for anything else. Now, on this particular one, you have a red cap.
Can he show us like what else we could mistake this shit for? Like, keeps telling us like you don't want to mistake this for what? Like, what is the other thing we could mistake this for? If there's a fucking massive red cap on this mushroom, and it's spiky.
That's very
Looks like almonds on a donut.
distinguishable, but sometimes I've seen them yellow or yellow-orange. And then you have these little white flecks on the top, and those are remnants of when it used to be a little tiny growing mushroom, like a little egg-like thing. And then as it grew,
Little sussy.
that container just separated, and you remained with that. In fact, we saw some over there, and you can very easily see how it started and why these flecks look like they do now. Now, the chemistry.
If you know a bit about mushrooms, you may know that some amanitas are very dangerous. The biggest danger comes from amatoxins. These mushrooms, along with a few others, contain the compounds that are responsible for 95% of mushroom deaths. Amatoxins, you see, cause acute liver and renal failure. In other words, we stay away from any mushroom that has these in it. However, Amanita muscaria does not contain amatoxins. Instead, it contains isoxazole toxins that can cause alterations to mental status, but no liver or renal injury. Thank goodness. Now here's what's interesting. The two main compounds are ibotenic acid and muscimol. Look how similar they are. Some people consider ibotenic acid to be the bad compound because it's the one responsible for nausea, vomiting, and a really uncomfortable experience. Muscimol is often considered the good one, and that might be oversimplifying it. But given that ibotenic acid can cause some sickness, we'll go with it for now. Through a process called decarboxylation, you can convert ibotenic acid to muscimol. You can first dry it between 165 and 195 degrees Fahrenheit to convert about 30%. Adding an acid like lemon juice converts more. And fermenting it in milk and yogurt that has bacteria could...
You think the reindeers were just straight up eating lemon? Like, like they would dry them, sprinkle a little lemon, and then eat the mushroom, the lemon tech in here?
convert over 90%. So, interestingly, the name fly agaric comes from the fact that people reportedly added it to milk for what everybody thought was to kill flies. My suspicion is that they were actually trying to convert ibotenic acid to muscimol so they could ingest these mushrooms, and the aggregation of flies was just a byproduct.
Oh, wow. See, that one has a little bit of the yellowy orange on the cap.
You got a young one, one that just came up over there.
At this point in the video, you might be wondering, what does this mushroom do? To understand that, I talked to Amanita Dreamer, an expert on this topic. In doing so, I realized this needs an entire video, which I'm exploring in the next episode.
That's her whole name, bro. She is the mushroom.
But the short is that in small amounts, it acts a bit as a sedative and can be very relaxing and calming. Yet, please note, I am not encouraging any experimentation. But this tidbit was fascinating.
I think it's the limitless drug. And if you take it in the right doses, you will see for yourself that it is. I've been on it. I know what it does.
Because my mission with this channel is to help rekindle an appreciation for things our ancestors once knew, this statement by Amanita Dreamer really seems to point to why we don't use it much these days.
Through attrition and generation after generation, the knowledge got lost. And now there's this resurgence of mushroom knowledge and trying to learn again not to fear mushroom medicine. You just prepare it properly and it could be the best medicine that the world needs.
I guess, like, since my mushroom knowledge is pretty bad, and the only mushroom knowledge I have is like from adverts and people in power, i.e. like teachers and cops, telling you, lawmakers, that mushrooms are bad and that they'll poison you, and it takes like an intricate knowledge base of being able to actually give you the hallucinogenic factors, and then even if you have those, they can like break your mind and all this other stuff, negative things that they put into the connotation of eating psychedelic mushrooms. But like this lady saying, places like Canada and Oregon, Colorado, like they're getting more and more into the science of mushrooms and psychedelics in nature, and seeing the benefits they have for people that have had like past trauma, PTSD, or depression, anxiety, and like microdosing, whether it's like through mushrooms or LSD or something else, could be a combination of both, and seeing how it helps people, and just like learning more on it and giving it more scientific backing, so the general consensus on it can like change, and people can have more knowledge and use that knowledge to experiment and try out these mushrooms, especially once they're legal in wherever they live in for medical use.
So as I lay in this Scandinavian forest looking face to face with the fly agaric, I think I finally figured out why it isn't used much anymore. It's not because it's actually deadly, and it isn't because it has no useful compounds. It actually does. Instead, it seems that our fear of other mushrooms and a general lack of societal knowledge about what you can and can't eat has led us to be overly cautious.
Look how cool this is.
Fortunately, we are in the resurgence. And if you care about this, you can also be very happy that we are rediscovering and hopefully taking advantage of, in a healthy way, the medicine that comes from this, the Mario Brothers mushroom. known to us now as Amanita muscaria.
Before I end this episode, I want to throw to what I'm doing next week, which is I'm here with Amanita Dreamer. We have dried Amanita.
This dude about to get high as shit. But I think now that there are more, I won't say kids, but like teenagers in general experimenting and figuring out ways to go against the grain and do more psychedelic drugs like some of their parents did when they were younger. Now a bigger portion of the young adults are trying psychedelics and other drugs out in general and seeing where it takes them. And as those people progress to older ages and as they become voters or potential senators, advocates for these types of things, we're just going to get more and more into a positive, like, appreciation, positive connotation to these types of drugs and more acceptance to them, as we, like, learn more about them and do more regulatory things and be able to show companies that they can make a profit off of it. Because as I've said before, these things really can't take hold until someone can make a profit off of something. You like YouTube and Spotify and all these other places, like they weren't really getting big until companies could make a profit off them and do ads. And then now that they can do ads, they can pay more people and more, more recognition and more people want to do it and all these other things, all because of money. Like it, if you want something to pop off, you need to be able to show people that they can make money off of it. So like helping people is a byproduct. Like that's what a capitalistic world is. If you can make money off of it, then it's gonna be great. And if a byproduct of making money off of whatever this thing is that it helps millions of people, then good for them. But they're most people's main concern, or most companies' main concern, is can they make money off of something. And once more scientific backing is done for mushrooms and more acceptance through regulatory means, and they can tax it, they can get profit off of it, they can mass produce it, then it becomes more widely accepted. I'm sure in the next 20, 30 years, these things are going to be selling at 7-Eleven, and in the next 10 to 15 years you're probably going to be able to buy a weed stick instead of cigarettes. But all right, see you guys later. Let's go forage in the woods for some mushrooms.